for a prayer. Oh Lord, we thank you for this day. Bless us as we go in this training. Let it be fruit, and whatever we learn, let's put it into action through our Lord. I pray, Amen.
Okay, thank you so much, Teacher Yasin, for the word of prayer. I want to welcome all of you for this session. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much for keeping time. Like we said, our workshops will always start at 9, and we shall not wait for anyone. And what are some of the objectives for this workshop? Number one, we want to provide you with some updates on the different ICT tools, some trends, but also some best practices. I do understand that when we are at school, our aim is always how can we make the children in our hands better. So we shall give you some updates and some few things you need to adjust here and there as you prepare your candidates, more so for the O-level this year. So we shall give you some updates and what you need to do. But also those people who are on and you went in for marking, still we shall call on you to share some of the things that you are able to observe such that we can be able to do better this year. But also we are going to look at how can we support our fellow teachers that are in our schools to integrate ICT. Whenever ICT is integrated in the learning, we do know that the learning outcomes will be able to be achieved. And from the corner of learning, we know that once a child interacts with these IC tools, he or she is able to retain the retention capacity, the retention content for that particular point is a bit high. So we want to know how can we support, how are we going to support our fellow teachers in our community? It does not necessarily mean that you need to have all the devices, but how can we utilize that smartphone you have, that one laptop you have, that projector you have, such that you can be able to support your fellow teachers, such that they can acquire these skills. But then the third objective is how can we be pioneers? There are quite a number of projects that are always advertised, the number of projects that are always running, but many of these projects require ICT. They do call on teachers to apply, to go on and get involved. A case in point, last year, M10 called on some of the projects. They wanted people who can showcase what they have done in their communities. And the project was sponsored. There was quite a lot of money on it. But we had barely any teacher who had an impact that could be observed in the community. So we want to say, how can we pioneer at our school levels? How can we pioneer different projects at our school level? But also we want to know, do we have some opportunities where we can mobilize, where we can get resources to support us in the teaching and learning? I know one of the major problems we do face as IC teachers are resources. Every time we are crying, we don't have resources, we don't have resources, we don't have resources. What can we do? Because we shall not cry until, but now we need to come up with solutions that can support us to do better come this year. At this point, allow me to welcome our facilitator. On our call, we have our facilitator who is going to be taking us through. He has been teaching ICT for a number of years. He's a teacher and is going to be taking us through on how ICT is from the O-level perspective, and at a later time we shall have an open discussion such that we can come up with the different solutions to make our subject much better. At this point, allow me to welcome teacher Elisa Masaba to take on the discussion. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Kaziva. I believe you're able to hear me and the team that side.
Yes, you are very clear.
All right. My name is Masawe Risa. I work with Mbali Secondary School. I've been teaching ICT for some time now. And like Mr. Kaziva said, in this workshop, we are going to interact about ICT, and we are going to talk about several things. But specifically what I'm going to interact with you this morning, I'm going to look at ICT from the O-level perspective, and the code is there, 840/1, and that is paper 1 that I'm going to look at basically this morning. Yeah, I work with Mbali Secondary School, and I have worked with the Holistic E-Learning platform for some time now, and I must congratulate all of you for making it to this session, and I want to thank Mr. Kaziva for making this happen. I'm going to start by interacting with you on what probably we can take back to the schools or to the classes where we teach this ICT. And like Mr. Kaziva said, if we have anyone here who probably has some knowledge on anything that I will talk about, at some point, please feel free to share with us, because we're interacting such that the moment the teacher leaves here, when you're better. And I'm going to talk about what they call the CBC, and specifically CBC, we've now looked at it for some time now, and what does it focus on, especially from the ICT perspective. CBC, of course, that is competence-based curriculum, and now it has reached senior 6. So there is no way you can avoid this. So allow us interact a little bit about this CBC. And when we talk about CBC, we focus so much on what a learner can do or what a learner has. I'm not telling me the learner was about to do this or what. What we interact most here with ICT is that if you're talking about a competence-based curriculum, then tell us what a learner can do. For example, we've been here with my students this morning, and from when the holiday started, they have been trying out to make a robot. So if you're coming and you want to see if this is a CBC, then look at what the robot they have made. So what they can do at that moment is what the CBC majorly focuses on, or what the learner has, if you were to assess. Now, when it comes to assessing this CBC, we use what we call competence-based assessment. So when you're assessing a student who can do something, you don't assess them again the traditional way, where we used to put a very long tick. No, you are supposed to use codes to show that you are doing what we call the competence-based assessment. And competence-based assessment, this one majorly focuses on assessing what a learner can do or what a learner knows. So a learner can write maybe a full page or 2 pages, but for you, when you're assessing, you look for that particular line in that work of the student, and you see what the learner can do or what the learner knows. So, and as teachers, we need to know that the curriculum or the curriculum developers clearly stated this. When you are to assess a student who has done a CBC, please always be guided by the outcomes, the learning outcomes that every topic in the syllabus has. And I picked one of the learning outcomes, or I picked a competence here, and specifically from the theme of ICT safety and environment, and the topic is there, and the competence tells us clearly that the learner appreciates the various health problems associated with the regular use of computer/ICT systems and how they can be avoided. So the curriculum developers are guiding us that when you're teaching health and safety, that is topic number 8 in our syllabus, the competence has been put there. So when you're assessing this student, try to look at that competence and tell whether the learner has achieved the whole of it, or maybe partially or something like I'm going to show you how the assessment looks like in the CBA. So we are here this morning to interact and see maybe what we can do well and what we've been doing wrong, or maybe what we've been doing well and we share such that we can all be better. I'm going to talk about specifically I'm going to talk about specifically paper 1 because it is the paper I interact with, and I want to use about maybe 20 minutes or maybe slightly more than that to discuss, and it will be open at the later time to show you. Probably it will be open at the later time such that you can bring in your input and so on. I'm going to talk about paper 1. Like I said, the paper code is 840 and stroke 1. The instructions are always clear, and I don't want to go through the instructions, but I want to talk about that last part when they say formatting. And this is always on these question papers we have to set for these students. Please, the cover page, make it clear for students to know what they're interacting with. What is important is that last line is that all answers that students write must be presented using a formal writing layout. And dear teachers, please, every time you're interacting with the students' work, give them a mark for that, what we call the formal writing layout. Later on, I will show you the code that is supposed to be used for that. But when a student writes their work, encourage them to have a formal writing layout. And formal writing layouts are so many. One of it can be a letter. A student can decide to write a letter to solve a problem. A student can decide to write the work in form of a table, and a student can decide to write the work in form of an essay. So please, dear teachers, as you're interacting with students' work, always look out for that formal writing layout. And every time a student uses a formal writing layout, it is always scored. How I wish you can always remember that if a student has any formal writing layout, give them that score. And it is always given as FP, like I'm going to show you that code at the later time. This paper, of course, has two sections, A and B. And section A is compulsory. Section B is, of course, having two parts. That's part 1 and part 2. And like the instructions are clear there. So if you are to assess a student, like we probably now are trying out to do assessment like we did in all the previous terms, but as we come to next term that is starting on Tuesday next week, please look out for the elements of construct whenever you are trying to write that question to the students or write that task to the students. And the element of constructs are very important. I'm going to provide all of them here. I pray that you take a screenshot for those that have not interacted with them. And if you've interacted with them, please, at the later time, you pick one and at least take us through any that you've interacted with. This involves the grouping of similar competencies. In the previous slide, I showed you a competence. Now, the curriculum has been developed in such a way that it has competencies. So these competencies, some of them are similar and they are grouped together to form what we call an element of construct. And these elements of construct guide us on how to assess these students. So, unlike we are going to maybe write these exams, don't assess a competence more than once. Assess it once and you leave it. Then you go to another competence like that, such that when you present this student after senior 4, the student should be able to represent you well out there, should have at least a number of what? Competencies. And the elements of construct have 3 for paper 1, and like I have listed them here. The first one is appreciates and manages the computer system, appreciates ICT safety and proper management of e-waste, assesses, stores and shares information using ICTs, and those are the main three elements of constructs. Like I said, it's a combination of many competencies, all of them put together to form what we call one element of construct. And you've seen, so ICT paper 1, when you're setting it, please put section A, and section A is compulsory and it uses that first element of construct. Then section B is also having two parts. The first part of section B uses that second element of construct, and the last part of section B uses that last element of construct. So I wanted to give you a simple example of an item that has been picked from a UNEP question paper of the other previous year, that was 2024. I cannot talk about the UNEP question paper 2025 here for obvious reasons, that the results are not out, so we cannot discuss it as teachers, maybe when eventually results come out. So this is picked directly from last year, that was 2024, and they were telling us that the head teacher of BB Hara Secondary School is planning to organize an assembly to sensitize 200 new students about the school rules and regulations. The students will be required to assemble in the main hall. The head teacher would like to have a visual presentation of his speech and also give out a copy of the rules and regulations. The scenario continues and says, the head teacher's secretary, who is your brother, has been tasked to prepare whatever the head teacher will need to have a successful assembly, but has no idea of the appropriate ICTs that can be used and how they are used. Your brother has approached you for help. Now, the task says, explain to your brother the ICTs he can use and how to use them to ensure that the teacher has a successful what? Assembly. Yeah, the task is over there. And when you are assessing these students, please encourage them, or when you preparing them, like Mr. Kajwa said, preparing them to respond to these questions, please always tell them, prepare a very focused introduction for every item. And this is where I'm going to pose a question to any teacher who is here, probably who could have interacted with this item, or if you've not interacted with it, to guide us on how they have been interacting with their students wherever they are on the qualities of a good introduction. If you're talking to the students about a focused introduction, because this is 1 mark, what have you been telling them, or can you sample for us a good introduction for this item? I will request that maybe write in the chat, but if you raise your hand and tell us, that would be so good. Share your experiences on how you've been interacting with learners on how to write focused introductions. Of course, I have my guide here that will maybe look at later on, but if we can get your view on this, it will be better. Mr. Kazwa, I am not able to read the chat in case something drops there. Kindly share.
Okay.
We are talking about a focused introduction when you're assessing learners. What have you been sharing with them, or the qualities of a good introduction, if maybe you were to attempt such a question? When you raise up the hand, we will give you the right to open your microphone. Unfortunately, at the moment, you can't open for those that are trying to open.
Okay, maybe Teacher Lisa, teachers, feel free. Just give us a sample because it will help us to learn from what you have been having, and it becomes even much easier for us to know now where was the mistake and which areas do we need to improve. So let me see whether ACT High School you can give us just a sample on how you have been guiding your learners. As I also get Teacher Ratib here, Teacher Julius, feel free to unmute and share with us how you have been doing it. Katulam Julius. Mr. Sulaiman Muhindo. Mr. Isaac. Yes, Mr. Ko, you can go on. Mr. John?
Mr. Kazu, I can't hear. Have you, as the person unmuted?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay, maybe the...
Okay, he has unmuted.
Okay.
Okay. Teacher John, go on. Okay, I think we are failing to get them. Teacher Lisa, we can maybe proceed.
So I was saying whenever you're interacting with these students, guide them on how to write a focused introduction. And when you're writing a focused introduction, always take into considerations the following. The first one is that you read through the scenario, of course, and the scenario has what we call the characters and their roles. So when you're writing a focused introduction, please be able to sample for us these characters, and I want you to show some of the characters here. The characters are people in a scenario. Like in the scenario here, we have the head teacher who is a character. We have the secretary, and they are telling us that explain to your brother. So when you read through here, you realize that your brother is actually the secretary. So when the examiner or the item developer tells you that explain to your brother, when the item developer is telling you that explain to your brother, it means you, the person who is taking the item, you have become also a character. So in this particular situation, we have so many characters: the head teacher, the secretary, and you yourself who is taking this item. You become a character, and you please sample the role of those characters. Like the head teacher, of course, is planning for that assembly, but also the secretary is supposed to prepare, and also the brother who is the secretary. So you, as the item squatter, when you're making this introduction, please involve yourself in that introduction. And also the areas of focus, they are telling us is preparing to do the assembly and so on. So when you're making a good introduction, of course, the introduction has no formula, but when you're making a good introduction, please talk about the character, their roles, and talk about the areas of focus. And there are so many areas of focus that the item writer is focusing you to. The first one here, they're telling us that they are making an assembly in the hall. That is an area of focus. They're telling us they are printing out this to students, the schools, and so on, like that. So when you're making an area of a focused introduction, sample the characters, also chip in the areas of focus. If you see some of them, of course, they're always there. And lastly, link the task given to the area of focus. So don't write the introduction and take it and make it go so long, and you're failing to put those three. And the students, when you interact with their work, they can make this introduction in 1 line or 2 lines or 3 lines, depending on how a student has been able to summarize all this. Make sure you involve yourself in this, in the introduction. pick some of the characters in the scenario, focus the introduction to the areas of focus, and lastly, link it properly. So, like I had requested, I wanted to hear some of the introductions, but of course I had mine here, a sample one. My brother is secretary to the HM of BBR. You see, in this scenario, I am involving myself as the item scorer, as the item writer rather, and as the item taker. I am involving myself in the introduction. When I say my brother, so I've brought myself in this situation, a secretary to the head teacher. Now, HM is also coming in as a character. Then these are the areas of focus we are now trying to link. So an introduction can look like that or something better than that. So when you're guiding the students as you go back to your respective schools, please make sure the introductions bring out the characters, then link these characters to different roles and make sure the introduction is focusing and give the people hope that what you're about to write is going to solve that problem and so on. Yes, so that is what I would probably talk about the introduction. There is also what they call a focused conclusion. It has also a score. You will also get a mark for this. And the focused conclusion is also good. When you're writing it, tell them, of course, what you told them, or like summarize whatever you've written. That's like a person, when they read your conclusion, they feel it is you who wrote what is up there. And when you're writing a conclusion, please tell these students to give hope that their responses can solve that problem. And of course, the hope, this is when you're writing a conclusion, you should be sure that you are confident on what you wrote. Of course, by giving hope to a person who read through your work, to believe what you've given can solve that problem. And lastly, if you can't write all the above, then give a recommendation. And it can also serve as a focused one conclusion. So I wanted to, of course, there are so many things to talk about, but I wanted to quickly, because of time, show you how a good response to such a task can look like. I wanted to leave this this task. The task is here. For those who have the question papers for last year, I want to copy it and see if I can paste it in the chat such that we interact with it. But please read through it and I show you a good response to such a task, but also a bad response that can cost students and their marks. I want to leave this in the chat. So I'm putting this item in the chat. Please refer to it when we are talking about the good and bad response. Yeah, of course, when you look at such a response, such a task, I wanted, if we can maybe hear from the teachers here, what are the likely responses to such a question? I'll put it in the chat. When you are guiding students, on how to attempt these tasks, the first thing what is required, in other words, what is required for them for such tasks? The first one is a student states a correct tool. The second one is that a student gives a correct description to that tool. And lastly, a student gives a correct management measure. So when you're guiding students on how to attempt these items, specifically this item 1, the first one to tell students is that let them give us correct what? Tools. A tool, it should be an ICT tool like a computer, it could be internet, it could be a printer, and so on. It should be a correct tool that solves that problem. Then, in that very paragraph, depending on how a student has decided to present their work, it could be a letter, it could be an essay. Let the student give us a correct description of how that tool is going to be used to solve that problem. And lastly, a student is required to give us a correct management measure, because the element of construct one says a student appreciates and manages the computer system. So we cannot give a correct score to a student who has given us a correct tool but has not described it. Of course, maybe has given us a correct description but has not managed it. It means when we give you this tool, you may spoil it. So you should be able to describe how the tool is going to be used, but also you should be able to tell us, if we were give you this tool, can you take good care of that tool and doesn't break down, continues to work, and so on. So this is the guide, how I wish a teacher or teachers can sample for us a correct tool to search an item. The item is in the chat, and I want to read that list correct tools, and I see how we can best present it in those three, using those three criteria. It should be a correct tool, it should be a good description, and lastly, a correct management measure rather. Mr. Kazwa, I wanted to at least hear from a teacher here,
Okay.
especially that response.
Okay. Any teacher willing to support? The correct tool. Okay, maybe they are still reading through.
Teacher Stephen, Teacher Ratib is saying.
Okay, Teacher Ratib, go on.
So the tool that I'm suggesting in line with the scenario is a computer set.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you, Teacher Ratib. The computer set. Let me write them here. Computer set. No. Computer set, correct? Any other tool here? Thank you, Teacher Ratib.
Other teachers, you can type in the chat. Okay, we have Teacher Isaac. Oh, Teacher Isaac, you can tell us the tool.
Thank you so much. I would also suggest the public address system.
Yeah, thank you. The public address system. Thank you, sir. And
in the
if
chat,
we can have the last one.
In the chat, someone has mentioned Teacher Christopher, a printer, and Teacher Maxwell, microphone.
I think we can go with that, Mr. Kazwa. Thank you for those who have contributed. Yeah,
can I also add on more?
Yes, you can add, Mr. Kazwa.
Okay, projector.
Projector.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, at least we have a projector. We are looking at tools that the teacher can use to hand an assembly for that particular matter that I have put the scenario. The scenario is in the chat, and these are some of the responses, I'm assuming, that are coming from the learners. Now, when you are guiding these students, please always look at this student's response and guide them, or maybe before they go to the final exam, guide them before. When we give you a computer set is a very correct tool. Why? Because it is going to play a role in that scenario, maybe for typing or helping to project and so on. And then there is this public address system. This is also a good correct tool, because a public address system contains so many things. Because we are not DJs, we cannot have the capacity to describe a speaker. There is what they call a bass beam, there is an amplifier. So all that is categorized into what they call a public address system. But of course, there are students, if you give them such a scenario, they will write and tell you speakers, they will tell you the microphones. Yes, we've seen a microphone here. They give you independent components. Now, if a student or a learner gives you those independent components, that if you present these components to them and it can't solve that problem, it can't solve any of the problems, then at that point, we use a code that we call, let me see, we use a polite code. If, for example, a student told you we need the extension cables, we need what, trying to describe the components that a public address system should have. We use a polite code called NA, and that is not applicable. It means, yes, it's a correct tool, but it can't solve a problem in that what situation if you presented it alone. For example, if a student writes a desktop, or if a student tells you a keyboard is going to be required here, all those are correct tools, but they are not applicable for that what particular matter. So I agree with the computer set is a correct tool. It can solve a problem. Public address can solve. This one can solve. But when you are presented with a microphone alone, this one cannot solve. For those who don't know microphone, some of them are wireless. They need what they call the receiver. Some microphones have the cables. You need to connect them to the amplifier and so on. So if you present this alone, it can sort of discourage students from giving that. Then this one is a projector. It's a correct tool because it plays a complete role in that what scenario. So I had a sample here. I had sampled the projector. So when a student writes a projector, as a teacher assessing this student, please, if a student just mentions projector, put letter I. And letter I stands for a student has correctly identified a tool that can handle a problem that can handle a situation in what that scenario. We use letter I to, it's a code for a correct tool. Then let's see how a correct description should be written. I tried to write it here, and a correct description should show us how you're going to use this projector to solve a problem. So link your item you told us to the scenario. Like this one says, it will be connected to a laptop to project the head teacher's visual presentation on a large screen or wall, allowing all the 200 students in the hall to see the points of the speech clearly. Yeah, of course, students write this in different ways, but I would prefer that as the correct description. Or if any student tries to bring out the role of what? The projector, then this is going to be given. Like I said, this is letter I for identifying a correct tool. This is D. D is a code that is used to show that a student has correctly described the role of what? That ICT tool. And lastly, this student should give us a correct management measure. If you give this student a projector, does the student have a competence? Does the student have the capacity to take care of this projector? So when you're reading through the student's work, also look up for that. So I also try to sample for us here a correct maintenance measure, and it says after the assembly, of course the student is telling us how to manage this tool. After the assembly, the projector should be allowed to cool down before being switched off from the power source, and then covered with a dust cover to prevent lens damage. Of course, a projector is delicate, so when you finish the assembly, of course, like everything a student should write, should link it to the scenario, not telling us that the projector needs to be locked in the room or where. Please let the student even link this maintenance measure to the scenario. There should be no room for a student to cram. That's why if you're keen, when you look at the mock bodies, the UNEP question papers, and what most schools are setting, the scenarios look similar, but there is no way a student can cram this. And if you maybe encourage them to cram, they may not score. They will come back with C, they will come back with B's, but no student will get an A if they've tried to memorize. Why? Because every tool they write must be addressing a problem in the scenario, and they should clearly describe it, but also give a correct maintenance measure. And if a student has given a correct maintenance measure, please use letter M like that. So there are 3 codes, I, D, and M. So if in case the tool is not correct, I'm assuming if the tool is not correct, the code we are going to use is NA. If the tool is not correct, and if the description is not correct, please use also what? NA. And if the maintenance measure is not correct, please use what? NA, not applicable, something like that. But in this case, all of these ones are correct. So I will not put what? NA. So this is one of the correct responses I suggested, and if there is any question, please ask it before I show you the second response. As we go back to our students, we interact with them along those lines. Any supplements, any questions on that response? Okay, dear teachers, please be encouraged to participate in this because we need to learn together. You could be knowing something maybe better, or you need to know something. Take advantage that we are all here. We are all ICT teachers. We support each other, and as we go back to school, when we are very good. Okay, maybe I need to sum for the second response. This is the first response. The second response is someone had talked about a printer and
Okay,
how
Teacher Lisa, I don't know that teacher. Okay, now teachers, in case you want to make some you can raise up the hand, then we shall allow you to unmute. Yes, teacher Ratib.
Okay, thank you so much, Teacher Stephen and Teacher Erisa. Again, I'm Teacher Ratib. I just need to add more. I need to seek for more clarity. The way the facilitator is guiding us on how to describe the tool. If the candidate describes a projector in this aspect, I want to be guided whether we shall mark him correct. A candidate says that a projector, this is needed to provide the visual presentation to the audience. Then he goes on to give some key specifications of a good projector, where he says a projector of 4096-216 resolution and 3000 to 5000 lumens can provide the best view to the audience even when the assembly is held during daylight. So how do we gauge these learners? A candidate goes on to give even the key specifications as he brings in this ICT tool. Is she or he also still on plan, or we have to improve in one way or the other?
All right, thank you so much, Teacher Ratib. That is a good candidate. if a candidate goes ahead and gives us specifications, actually that one is a super candidate. But what I can encourage you is to know that these students, the moment a student links the tool to the scenario, that student is correct. You don't wait to read what the child writes after. For example, in your statement, you said, this is needed to provide a visual presentation to the audience. That alone is good enough. A student has detected that the audience has come and is trying to show you that he's using this projector to present. So the moment a student or the item taker gives out that connection alone is good enough. So adding the other description, a student is showing that they really appreciate this computer system or they really appreciate this particular item, and that student can't be, of course, crossed. And the unfortunate bit is that that student is still scored the same way, like a student who has also just ended on the way. So the more you write, the better, though the code still remains the same. So whether that student has written the specifications or he has not put, the code remains D, provided the child is able to link that tool to the correct challenge it is solving in the situation that has been presented. Yeah, so that student is correct, teacher active. If we don't have any other, I want to sample the printer here. When you look at a printer, yes, of course, there are so many types of printer, but the general name is a printer. Encourage students to always tell us the specific printer.
Okay,
And
before you continue, Teacher Elisa, someone is saying, what if a student says a projector? This will be used to display the presentation on a wider screen to be viewed by a big audience. Is that student correct?
Of course, I have prepared. There is another slide that I have some answers that may not bring out this, but not to preempt. I want to say that student is almost giving us the definition, but we can assume that the presentation the student is talking about is the head teacher's message. But to make your students be on the safer side, I would suggest that that student is not scored. Why? He's almost giving us the definition. The presentation is more general. How I wish the student said to present the head teacher's presentation. That one has linked it to the scenario. But if he just says the presentation, yes, if subjected to a big debate, the student can be marked correct. But for now, I would suggest that as we go back, let's discourage such students. They shouldn't write answers that are so close to the definitions, Mr. Kazi.
Okay, thank you. Maybe also, Teacher Elisa, like you mentioned, that when advise students to involve the characters being used in the scenario, like instead of them just mentioning the audience, they could be specific on the kind of audience. Like here now for our scenario, you notice that we had, I think 200 something, like the number of students.
Yes.
So they could be specific to the 200 students instead of you just mentioning the word audience, because audience is a generic word that can mean spectators that are listening to something. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Edison.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that is very correct. When you chip in the characters, it does you so well. So when you look at a printer, I was looking at a printer here and I imagined this could be the correct way you would write. The secretary, of course, like Mr. Kazival said, it is better to see a way of fitting in the characters. If you can't easily link directly to the situation, but if you bring in the characters, in here the secretary is a character. The secretary would use the printer to produce the 200 hard copies. Of course, we are anticipating 200 participants of the school rules and regulations so that each new student receives a personal copy as requested by the head teacher. So At that moment, the tool has been clearly stated, the description is also clear. Then we wait and see if a student can give us a management measure. And the student says the printer should be kept in a well-ventilated area to prevent overheating. The student is showing you that printers overheat. So please, when you are querying such a learner, please appreciate the fact that a student has known that printers heat and put them in a well-ventilated area to prevent overheating during large print job. And like the large print job here, we are looking at 200 copies. Maybe the school rules and regulations, maybe 20 pages. Then times 200, that is a big task for a printer. So you have to give it a good area and should be regularly blown with a blower to remove the paper dust. Of course, every time you run many prints and so on, there is always dust that comes with the papers themselves, but also the surroundings. So this particular item taker has told us that we have to use a blower after using, blow such that some of this dust can go out. But what is important is that it has to be in a good area such that it doesn't overheat up, or any other maintenance measure a student can give here is good enough. Now, if you're given such, a student should be scored like this. Of course, gets this I, gets the description, gets the management measure like that. The items taker has given us a correct tool, has correctly described it, linking it to the situation, and has told us that is able to manage this tool. If you give this student this tool, they're able to use it. So, as you interact with these students, please continue guiding them a little more. Let them not cram this. Yes, you can teach them about printers, teach them about maintenance measures of printers, but let them not cram. Let them understand, if possible. Walk around the computer lab. If there is any printer, show them how it works. Show them how to blow. Show them how to remove paper jam. Yes, they can always recall these facts and write it on paper, and it can impress a person marking them, and they give them a mark. And if you fail completely, like Mr. Kaziva said, some of these tools are expensive. Can you download a video? Go to YouTube, download a video of how a printer works, or if you cannot risk to spray the printer and repair it, download a video that shows a printer being repaired or taken care of, so that when you're teaching printers, let the students end this lesson when they are complete students, not just giving them a definition, show them the types of printers, and that is all. No. Let them have a feel of how a printer works in a what? In a real world. So maybe because of time, I will not pick feedback. There is the last one here about a laptop. Someone had talked about a laptop. Yes, we always confuse the students majorly when they are writing this. They will tell you about a laptop about 5 times. They will tell you a monitor, they will tell you a keyboard, they will tell you the teacher needs a mouse, the teacher needs what? All those are accessories that make up what we call a laptop, or that make up what we call a computer set, or what makes up what we call a desktop. So a student must give us a complete name of all those items than just making one at a time. Maybe Teacher Latif, before I continue, Mr. Kaziva, give him a chance, maybe.
Yes, thank you, Teacher Erisa. I just need again to seek for more support. In the earlier slide, you talked about a projector. When you went on to the maintenance measure, you said that after the assembly, the projector should be allowed to cool down before being switched off from the main power, and then covered with a dust cover to prevent lens damage. In this, you commented and said that even when the candidate is calling for this management measure, we also want to see the candidate blending it to the scenario. And you brought it very well by saying after the assembly. But when you went on to the printer here, you said that under the maintenance measure, the printer should be kept in a well-ventilated area to prevent overheating during the large print job, and should be regularly blown with a blower to remove paper dust. But I was checking more, where is the scenario blended? The way you have really called in on the projector, I'm seeing the scenario well appreciated, but when it comes to the printer, the management measure, I can't see the scenario being called. How can we fix that into this paragraph?
Okay, thank you, Teacher Ratib. I think that is now what we should take to students. When you are interacting with them, carefully assess their responses. Yes, we are talking about the basics here, but when you get back to students eventually, like the curriculum suggests, don't have students work hide. If you're talking about printers, assess them there and then give them marks. So while I was preparing this presentation, I did not remember that in this part, but there is this section of large print job. I was imagining the scenario has, of course, a lot of work that it's going to do, talking about the hard copies that are 200 for each student and number of pages per what? Per rules and regulation. So, but like you see, it may have not brought it so well, but as you go back to the students, you can allow them maybe discuss it such that they can really bring out the situation. For example, in this case, involving the scenario here, linking it to the scenario, I would assume this item taker should clearly show us the 200 pages and multiply here such that it brings out that bigger picture that these students, this secretary is tasking a printer to a very big chunk of work. Or maybe, but maybe that is where I could link it directly to the number of the print job. Or if you have any other way you would link it, please share with us such that we can see the management measure coming really out relating to this situation. Yes, Teacher Ratib maybe. Or I have someone here, John K.
Yes, good morning, colleagues.
Morning.
I'm John K. Yeah, I'm looking at if we are bringing in that question that the colleague is trying to phrase, it would have been into the scenario where we are seeing it as one of the challenges that occurred during the presentation. If we had a line in the scenario which talks of during the process of printing then we see that problem of the papers and so on. So when it comes to the measures and we bring in the part of maintenance of drawing and having a paper jam, it will be giving us a clear part when it comes into the response side. So my advice would be, even these papers which are being set, they are not all that they hold everything to the maximum. We are encouraged that if we sit down as departments, we sit and organize a scenario that has a whole package around that. Every learner at least will have a place of belonging when it comes to responses. Like now, if we talk of that, this is the only part that, let's say, if you have a class of 100 or 300 and all these learners have to respond, you'll find that their responses will deter basing on how the learner understood the scenario and the response, cuts off the knowledge that the learner has in responding to the maintenance part of that specific device. I submit.
All right, thank you so much, Teacher John K. And I think I agree with that 100%. This being a curriculum that is still being developed, I think as departments, we need to now really get together and solve this, understand the element of construct, brainstorm on a scenario that is inclusive. It should have everything. Yes, maybe for now we can leave it at that. Teacher Ratib, do you have any other input, or we look at another response?
Thank you, sir. All is well, sir. We can continue.
Okay. Right, so we'll look at probably the last response here that I had prepared about a laptop. And a laptop, when you're talking about a laptop, because this is, or a desktop, it's a good tool for this, but link it to the situation. And in this category, in this particular response, I tried to link it to a laptop being in an environment where softwares can be installed. So when you're interacting with students, let them appreciate a laptop. Let them not only know the definition of the laptop, but let them look at a laptop as an environment. Let them look at a desktop as an environment where most of these softwares can be installed. Such that, and a laptop, for your own information, for the teachers who are here and you interact with these candidates, please show them that a laptop is almost a requirement for all these tasks in item 1. But how does a student use the laptop is what is important. So in this particular case, I said the secretary, I brought in the character. The secretary would use presentation software, of course, PowerPoint is the main one here, on the laptop to type and organize the head teacher's speech into slides that can be displayed during assembly. So you're showing us that you know a laptop and you're appreciating it is what we are seeing here. So make sure the learners, while they give you their responses, let it bring out the correct description. Of course, it may not be this, but let them show you that they know what the laptop role will look like in that situation. And of course, a laptop can be managed in any way, provided the student brings out that management measure correctly. And here I try to write and say the laptop should be kept away from food and drinks during the preparation process and should be shut down properly through the operating system to maintain the health of the hard drive. And of course, the student can write it in any way they want, provided they are showing you that they appreciate the tool. And if you give them this tool, they can take care of it. It's what the competence requires us to. It's what we look for in this student as the competency. So a laptop can be maintained in any way. But what I looked at here is when the secretary is trying to prepare this presentation for the teacher, let them not have drinks. Because if the drinks are there, it can accidentally pour into the keyboard and it stops working, or you can even lose the whole laptop. And shutting down, because we are talking about a laptop, let a student really show that the laptop, they have to shut it down through the operating system, not coming and cover it just, or maybe don't press the power button and it goes off. So my point here is that let the maintenance measure come out. Let the description come out and let the tool be correct. So maybe that is what I could talk about. I had Mr. Kazwa talk about a generic response, and I had an example of a generic response, and this is what most students write. And any student who writes this, it means the teacher who is teaching this learner has ended at classroom level, has not probably interacted with them to show them how to respond to this CBC task. For example, a student can tell us a printer is an external hardware output device that takes the electronic data stored on a computer or other device, generated copies out of it. Yes, this student is trying to avoid the definition of a printer. Or any student, or a student can even define it clearly. This one is tried to those. But it doesn't bring out the aspect of solving a problem in the scenario. This is a generic, and this is how we handle such learners. this student has given us a correct tool, but this is not applicable to the situation at hand. So this student only scores for the item, but does not score for the description. And this same student did not even provide the management measure. So I've tried to highlight this for you. The student has defined a printer perfectly, but has not explained that it will be used to produce copies of what. So this student has not been guided, or maybe has been guided, but we need to continue interacting with them as we go back to our schools. Please mark a student at a time. Don't pile many of them. Mark one, then group them. This one who has scored guides the others. This one who has not scored comes to this other group that has scored to learn more. Otherwise, if these children continue to give us these definitions, I'm very sure the results will continue getting back to surprise us the way we were surprised last year when those results came. So guide them, let them not be too generic. Another example of a generic response is here. A student tells us that a laptop, yes, this one knows a laptop very well. A laptop is a portable personal computer that is small enough to rest on the user's lap and can be powered by a battery or an AC adapter. It is used for processing. This one is making notes, recalling what exactly is in the book, and the student will not get the score for the description. The student simply mentions it. The student mentions it performs various tasks, but fails to specify the actual task in the prompt. So, what the item developer or the item writer was trying to ask was to solve the problem that was given. But this particular student is giving us the definition also. So this particular student also misses out. And later on, you're going to see how heavy a description is. Of course, if a student misses out any one description, the whole point gets to 1. And 1 is very bad when you're scoring a student. So this is a correct tool. This is a what? A not applicable what? Why? Because it is generic. So I probably can pause here for at least someone to ask or supplement on these generic responses. What do you have to say about them? And there is also an incomplete answer here. Like if a student says, a projector is used to display the head teacher's visual presentation and ends there. Then another student says a printer, like that. Yes, a student ends at only I and the D. Then M gets 0. So it means the student is not complete. This I is correct, this D is correct, and M is 0. And this costs the student so much. So please encourage them, let them know what we are doing. Give us a tool, give us a correct description, give us the maintenance and measure if you must score so well in this item 1. So I will pause it here and get more feedback from the audience, supplement, or probably a question. We see if we can attempt to answer it. Yes, Teacher John K.
Yes, hello friends. My request would be to all members who are online is to encourage our learners to get so much in reading culture, more so when they are given these scenarios, to identify more of what ICT tool is all about. First, identifying the ICT tool, and then the other thing is to find the descriptions in any way, in any language, so long as we find that the learner has an answer that is in line with the ICT tool, what it does, and then the other part is for the maintenance. So it would be good if all our learners get to have a culture of reading, identifying what a scenario holds as a problem, then to providing a solution. If all our learners in all the streams, in all our schools that we have, hold that culture of reading, of identifying the problem in the scenario and providing a suitable solution that is in line with the scenario, we shall have it that learners will score the A other than a B or a C. That's what I could bring in as far as item 1 in those element of construct that you had to display online. I mean, on the first slide that you presented. As well, even members not getting, the moment you get a paper from a different source and you don't look into it, then you'll ask yourself, what are you trying to assess your learners? What is your aim of assessing those learners at that particular item that you selected from group A or part X? As well, even those of the UNEB papers, the previous papers we've seen and the mock papers, once you expose your learners to very many items, you realize that they will now have the knowledge of knowing that item 1 is all about ICT tools. And if it is ICT tool, then which specific ICT tool that is mentioned in the scenario that is required, as well, which maintenance, which specific part, because we may find ourselves that other people will go the other side of cramming and say, always item 1, they ask about ICT tool, then it ends there. Some learners will be tracked into that area. But if we have scenarios which are specific or outside, squeezed up or giving an output of what a learner is supposed to inform the solution, this goes back to what Mr. Kaswa was saying, that the moment we identify a solution or a problem, how is it going to be done in the community when it comes to real life? That's where the problem is, that we may go back to the other pace of the old curriculum where people have the knowledge, but they cannot even apply it. As well, this is a food for thought. In the new curriculum, we call teachers as instructors. So it was of a view we call ourselves, or we call our friends in the field as instructors, or even inform learners. For us, we are there to supervise. I thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Teacher John K, for that supplement. A very good one. Yes, Teacher Ratib.
Thank you so much, Teacher Erisa. I also appreciate the speaker that has just ended briefly for the support rendered, but I just want also to push more clarity in the submissions that you've been able to share with us. You have made it very easy for the student or us to know how we really have to identify these tools, describe them, then give the management measure. But maybe in the same interim, my colleagues will be free to share again. I want us to also instill a skill or a sense of thinking to these learners as they do read through the scenarios. Let me take an example. When you go into these banks, you access a bank, you'll find that the tellers you'll find in that bank will be seated on desktop computers. Note that they don't have laptops. They do come with them. They put them in the bags. But as they reach the office area to start operating, you find them operating using the desktop computers. Now, in the schools that we are in, you'll find that these students are exposed to the school secretaries, and they are looking at them using desktop computers to do their casual work, to do the basic work for the school printing, stationery, and stuff. So in the scenario that we had at hand, we saw that the school secretary was in charge of preparing the presentation for the head teacher. So instead of a student saying a laptop, it will be more and best ideal for the student to say a desktop computer. or a computer set, because they have seen the school secretaries at their different localities, and in the normal community, these secretaries normally operate on desktop computers. So if we can let them look into the society, and as they do respond to these scenarios, they respond based on reality that at school we see a desktop computer. Not that a laptop can't work. A laptop works very well. But in what we call the de facto standard, the things that are operating in reality, it could be best if they say a desktop computer. If it is maybe other stuff, you can maybe bring in laptops to mention but a few. But I want them to be real. I want them to look into society and respond based on what is really happening on ground. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Teacher Atib. He has guided us on that very well. And for this question here, it is very good when you're interacting with students to give them a variety and explain to them well. And me, what I always do, I always make sure they know all this. So I always say laptop. I can even stroke desktop. Like some teachers said, computer set, and even tablets. Tablets are good. And I don't know the other one. Even a smartphone is smartphone. Please, as we go back, that guided us on if students can be real. For example, if the question is talking about, yes, Mr. Kazima.
Okay, yes, thank you so much. Maybe allow me to interject in a bit. Okay, in my thinking as well, looking at the scenario we are handling, it has aspects whereby the head teacher is required to present on the assembly. Now we ask ourselves, if is to present on the assembly, what tools is she going to use? That if she's for visual presentation, she'll need a projector. How is she going to connect the projector? Is she going to use maybe a laptop, or they will have to carry a desktop to go into the main hall and then they carry it? So which one will bring out the convenience? A laptop or a desktop computer? Now we need to also keep thinking in that direction, that if she's to present within the main hall, then it means that the best tool they can use during that kind of presentation is carrying a laptop, because it is a bit light to carry compared to a desktop computer. Maybe if at all it is for secretary, then that aspect would come. But since the gist of the scenario was about the presentation to the students, then I would think having a laptop for this case would come out much better. I do submit.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Kaziva. I think you've guided so well. When you eventually get to the main hall, carrying the desktop may be a little problematical, maybe. But thank you, Mr. Kaziva. My point here was make sure the students interact with the variety of these computer sets. Could be a tablet, a smartphone, a laptop, desktop, and so on. For example, there is a scenario I interacted with these people who were doing sensors, for example. A scenario could look like that if the children be real. Don't again say sensors, as they are walking door to door, they should walk with the desktop. Maybe we are talking about the head teacher here, and you say, I think the head teacher needs a tablet. You know how hard it is to connect a tablet to a projector, or it may even fail completely, and so on. So, like Teacher Ratib said, let students be realistic. If it's to the hall, let them take a laptop. If it's the secretary, let them use a desktop. If you go to the bank and so on like that, let the children not what? RAM. Yeah, so the last one here I think we can pick from is Rebecca. Teacher Rebecca, please go on.
Thank you, the facilitator, and good morning to you all colleagues. Also allow me to thank the previous submissions. Mine, I think I need clarity on at what level should we bring in this grading system. I'll give an example. for ICT tools is introduced in senior one. So should we start straight away, grading the learners using this standard? Has the student been able to identify the tool? Has he or she described it well? Has she managed to really, describe the management measures? So should we start the grading straight away from senior one so that by senior 4, these learners really know what they are doing? They have been doing it from senior 1, now they're at senior 4. It becomes sort of a routine to them. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Teacher Rebecca. And there are 2 hands. Okay, let me first pick John K before we see what we can respond to that. Yes, Teacher John K.
Yes, I want to reply, Rebecca. As early as your senior one's report, we are in Uganda and these people have been home. So when you look into chapter 1, where these people have to look into part of the ICT tools, once you begin by giving them a challenge, by if you tell them that please, as you requested us to give in the responses of the ICT tools, remember they are in groups. You tell them, everybody, as soon as you begin your chapter, you tell them, please, we are going to look at ICT, let's say, Adware, if that is the part. You tell them, everybody into your book, write for me any ICT tool or device that you know. So your task is now to move around into your room and see their responses. As they keep on writing at that level, you'll see them having already the ICT tools. Now, the ones that will not write at all, those will be the learners that you are going now to make an other assessment at an individual level. This means that already now your people are in the know. Now you are going to come into the other part of describing this ICT tool or clustering them into their categories. So if you bring in that part, that this group you have mentioned, actually, even if you may tell them to come onto the chalkboard and they write for you in general, as others are saying, you pick one at one. As they write, you are making your class to be involved. You are making your learners to feel the subject. Number 3, as you are concluding, you tell them now, members, the moment you identify the ICT tool, the code at that level is I. You have identified the ICT tool. Then that means that you have already scored, they have mastered it. By the end of your lecture, by the end of your class, you'll feel that even the class is okay and you are moving with them. Then the other part is, if you see that this other group is failing or they may not be in the know, you may tell these learners that, please, you know what, this group, you go to the internet or you go into the computer lab, make research about the ICT tool. That group which you think that has not made it, by the time you come back on the following day, you'll find that even this other group that you left or that you thought that they may not be in the know. If you're having internet in class, you can tell the learner because they may place. The internet is there, you're in the computer lab, tell him, place this. Once he places, he gives you the responses. So I feel that if we do that, we bring in the class, it is you pose something to them, they give you the responses, you identify, you tell them now the identifier for this item is I. You'll have scored. I thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Teacher John K. I think you really responded to her so well. I know she would have appreciated that if that was how the students, if possible, let them interact with this at an early stage. I remembered I could open a syllabus here and sample maybe senior 1 first term topic 1, that is introduction to ICT tools. I don't know whether we've found the time to go through it, but it clearly says I also want to attempt to respond to her. It clearly says, this is term 1, topic 1, introduction to ICTs. The competencies here, but what I want to look at are the learning outcomes. So in this topic, 24 periods, by the end of 24 periods, the student should be able to use various ICT tools. So if a student is able to use various ICT tools, then at that point, a student is able to identify those tools. Then, of course, if you are able to use them, you can also describe. Then the last one, which is the high end of this topic, is appreciate the safety precautions for the different ICT tools. So in senior 1, topic 1, a student should be able to clearly maintain an ICT device. So what I want to tell Teacher Rebecca here is that maybe if you assess your students and realize maybe that grading scale or criteria is too heavy in the first 1 week, you can relax it a little bit, but at the end of the year, when you're setting the final that assessment exam, that end of year assessment, please consider this. Let them write standard what? Points. Let them not just list, let them not define. Look for all ways of interacting and make them comfortable with this grade, such that when you're assessing them in third term eventually, or even, no, but it's better in third term, put it clear, give them the conditions clearly, like the syllabus suggests, and these students will write, like Teacher John Carl said, these children come when they know most of the things. Your role is to just be a facilitator and help them put together this knowledge and they write. So I think that answers what Teacher Rebecca has asked, unless if there is any other submission, but I suggest we go to section B. Yes, Mr. Kaziba.
Yes, thank you so much. Like you have mentioned, Teacher Lisa, that these children know the devices, but many don't know what those devices do. So I would propose that in case you are handling, let me say, such a topic, Mr. John gave us one of the approaches you could use to approach this topic. But also, in case it is on my end, what I could do, in case I have this class that is not so big, I could take them out of the class. I walk to the different areas within the school where I know different ICT tools are being applied and they are using them. Take an example, in case we have a secretary, I could take them, they look at what the secretary is doing without mentioning anything. After there, I take them to, maybe in case we have a printing area, they see what is happening those ends, and then afterwards I take them in class. Then I pose my activity questions. I ask them, what were you able to observe? What were they doing? Then in the process, they'll be, what were they using? So they're able to know what were they using, that maybe they were using this tool. What were they doing? So in the process, they're able to identify what the tool was being used for. By doing so now, they are able to relate what they know and now what the tool can do. So now it depends on how do we approach these kind of questions, that even if it is possible, you could even design simulations that can bring out those particular things. So in the process, these children will not be able to forget many of these tools. Then also to add on, Teacher Rebecca and other teachers, at the end of the day, there are some concepts you need to remember, that sometimes teaching an old dog new tricks, it becomes tough. Like even us, the way you see us teachers, that just adjusting to these new concepts, it has taken us time. So the earlier, the better. But at whatever level these children are at, you start slowly. Do not bring everything at a go, but you can start with those mini scenarios, then keep on improving them, making them hard, such that by the time they reach senior 3, they are well stabilized. But you start slowly with a mini scenario, maybe with around 200 characters, showing them the few things, up to when you build up a good foundation. But setting up a good foundation at an early stage is the best thing you can ever have. By the time they reach up, you'll just be polishing. I do submit. Thank you.
All right. I think Mr. Akazwa has really closed this so well. Thank you so much for that guidance. You cannot teach an old dog new tricks. So, Teacher Rebecca, there you go. Get the senior ones, make them ready. By the time they reach senior 3, when they are good to go. So, allow me proceed to section B of this presentation. Don't know whether time will allow us, but of course, there are generic responses. Students cram, some write incomplete statements. Please guide them. Let them write complete statements. Give a tool, give a description, give a management measure. The students will be good to go. Of course, someone may ask, how many points should the student write? Let them write as many as they can. But of course, the standard ranges from 5 and above or 6 and above, but encourage them to continue what? Writing. Let them write. Let children write. If they can write 10, well, if they can, but let them write and let them avoid repeating the tools. If the student can avoid repeating the tools, let them write. Let's get on. I want to go to section B. There is a UNEB report here that I didn't want to read because it is accessible. All of us could have read through. But of course, the weakness that UNEB spotted on here was that students mistook addressing an assembly for assembling a computer, and gave any ICT tools they would think about whether it would solve the issue in the scenario or not. Please find time and go through the UNEB report. It will guide you, like Mr. Kazva said, when we go back to these schools, when we meet the students, let us be better. Don't go to teach when you've not gone through the UNEB report. Read through it will guide you on what the do's and don'ts. So I want to quickly run to section B. Of course, before I go to section B, there is a scenario here that I had prepared. Maybe I'll just have to leave it here for you to take a screenshot, or maybe try to digest this as I pick teacher. I saw that hand up, Sir Isaac Waga. Maybe if you had your input as people go through this scenario. Sir Isaac Wagala, please, your hand was up. Put in your submission and we proceed. Okay, Isaac seems to have probably given up. But there is another, yes. Teacher Isaac is here. Hope this is the same person, not different one. Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you so much, Teacher Erisa. Yes, please. Thank you
proceed.
so much, Teacher Erisa. Is my voice clear?
Yes, you're clear, though
Hello?
you're breaking a bit.
Hello?
Maybe it's network.
Hello?
Yes, Teacher Isaac, we can hear you. Please proceed. Okay, I think we've lost him, but it is network. Yes. Chilaga Isaac, your hand went up as well, teacher. Isaac, or you're the same? Okay, maybe we'll leave it at that. There is a school that had received the donations of tablets. I picked this from one of the mock bodies, and I thought we would use it for learning purposes or for preparing our students. There is one here, and yes, like one of the colleagues said, please subject these children to as many tasks as possible, show them as many scenarios as possible. It will help them develop their abilities to respond. This particular one, there is a donation of tablets and internet routers to help learners access educational content. I tried to get a response, like learners would need an ICT tool called the internet. Internet is an ICT tool. So learners will use it to access the educational content and research materials online. So that is a good one. Then for maintenance, how do we maintain internet? You put passwords and firewalls to keep the network safe and so on. So our projector will be important here, so well, and so on, like that, like that. So please find time and interact with that activity. Like I said, take a screenshot, then at the later time you can interact with it. When we talk about section B, this is the most tricky section. I pray that you give it the attention it deserves. If the learners are not prepared in section B, they're going to misfire this exam, whether at school level, whether at national level. If they are not prepared in section B, it is section B that tells us who an ICT student is. Please be around them, support them such that they are able to do this section so well. This section B is one of the most, it's the bulkiest, it is bulky. Support them, especially this part 1, because section B has 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is a bit bulky. Support them, encourage them, like Mr. Kajva said, start by setting simpler scenarios, almost direct, then go on tightening. By the time they reach senior 3, when they are very good to go. So, in this section, 2 parts. Candidates must answer 2 items from this section, and of course, they should balance. 1 item should be from part 1, then the other item should be from part 2 to make them 2 items for this section. So, part 1, they set 2. When you're setting, please make sure you set 2 items. The student should do only 1, because the element of construct is the same for section B. And then part 2, please also set 2 items. A student should be able to pick 1. For part 1, the element of construct is this. Then for part 2, the element of construct is also different. Like I said, there are 3 elements of construct. So for part 1 is what I want to start with. So the approach to these questions, first, when you're setting, please bring out the ICT safety and proper management of e-waste. Let children appreciate the ICT safety. Let them know that when they use a computer wrongly, like me, when I'm teaching my students, when you reach this section, they get scared. So please try to remove that fear from them. But for purposes of them learning, let them first get scared a little bit. Show them that ICT tools are a bit dangerous if you carelessly use them. Let them get scared. But of course, let them not remain in that state forever. Them get scared, but then show them the mitigation measures if they must go past those issues. Show them the healthy issues. Let them get scared that if you use a laptop for a long period of time, you could lose your back. You could become obesity. You could get headache and so on, and show them that they could lose their sight at some point. Let them know the bitter truth. But of course, they will panic. Some could even hear that did they choose the wrong subject and so on, because they interact with these devices for a long period of time. But that is intended for them to learn. And then come someday, show them that this can be, however, handled in what we call the mitigation measures. So in section B, a candidate, when you ask them to do a task, they should be able to explain for us the cause. If the scenario has given a cause, they should be able to provide the consequences. If they have told us that, for example, the teacher is teaching online and is sitting on the laptop for longer period of hours, there they have given you the cause. A student should be able to give us the consequences of you sitting on a laptop for a longer period of time. That is the approach. If they give you the cause, like if they tell you the teacher is sitting on the laptop for longer hours, teaching online throughout the day, researching and so on, they have given you a cause. Please, as an item taker, encourage them to show us the likely consequences if they stay on a computer for longer hours. For example, a student can say that teacher may get backache. Why? Because they are sitting on a computer for a long period of time and probably they are sitting in a wrong posture and so on. So you're explaining the consequence that can come as a result of sitting for a longer period of time. Then there are some situations where item takers are tasked to give us the causes. You set a situation and tell them that now, because the secretary is working with computer, he's starting to experience headache, he's experiencing backache, he's experiencing maybe stress and so on. Then they ask you to advise. So in such a situation, the item taker is requested or is required to tell us the causes of those consequences that the item developer or the item writers task them to say. So, what am I talking about? If they give you the cause, explain the consequences, those that cause or the outcomes. If they give you the consequence, like the backache, the stress, and so on, tell us what causes that. Then the second one is make sure you give the mitigation measures for each case. If you told us the back pain, how do we solve it? Like I said, students are going to get scared if you tell them, you know what? When you use the computer for a longer period of time, the eyes could die. You would lose your sight. Maybe they will become red and so on. They will get scared. So come and give them the mitigation measures that when you're using a computer, maybe put the light at a certain level. Or maybe use glasses or use what to show them that yes, even if they are going to lose their sight, no reason for them to worry if they mitigated it. Then lastly, of course, this very part one has a complete area of focus that is called the e-waste management. I have been interacting with schools here. If a teacher comes, come and talk to my students. Then when you interact with students, you find the whole topic has not been handled, e-waste management. And yet, when you're setting item number 2 and 3, e-waste management should be compulsory. And that one is always direct. We need to know how to manage it. How do you manage e-waste? So, after telling us the cause of the consequence or telling us the consequences, if they've given you the cause, tell us the mitigation, then lastly, handle e-waste management separately. And when you're handling e-waste management, please, this is what we look at when you're assessing. Please look out for this. Number one, look out for the measure. For those who have taught e-waste management, you know the measures like recycling, and so on, controlled burning and so on. Which stakeholder is doing that measure? For example, recycling, the correct stakeholder could be a certified recycling company. And what is their role? To come and take away these e-wastes and take them to transform them into different products. You get? So let them tell us the major, let them tell us the stakeholder, let them tell us the role. Like I said, support these children to attempt this area so well because it is the most tricky area and it's bulky. After telling us the cause and consequence, tell us the mitigation, then come and handle e-waste. Tell us the measure, tell us the stakeholder, tell us what the role. So even when you're setting your scenario, make it easy for students to be able to see all that. Like I have some scenarios here that I wanted us to use for training purposes. In this particular one, the scenario I have provided has given a cause, and the cause is there. How I wish I tasked you to show whether this is given a cause or a consequence. But let me copy it in the chat such that you can read through it again and see. But in this particular case, they have given us the cause and I want to copy this in the chat such that we can refer to it while we are discussing about this item too. It is there. They're telling us about your cousin. Don't forget to give it an introduction, like I said. Please go through that. The question is on this screen. I did not copy it in the chat, but I've copied the scenario. Let me share my screen. Okay, the task is here. The scenario is saying your cousin at TechFix has become extremely busy repairing phones and laptops. Now your cousin is repairing phones and laptops. Now they're telling us that to keep up the customers, he now spends over 10 hours a day hunching over his workbench, fixing tiny parts. That is like bending over like a bench. You see, when you put the motherboard down and you're bending in that process. So he's doing that for over 10 hours. Because he wants to keep up with the customers, let them not run away. So these are ICT gadgets, he's repairing them. He uses a computer mouse constantly to search for repair guides and often work in a dimly lit corner to save on electricity. Now look at that such a situation. They are telling us that your cousin is repairing phones and laptops. And because it's a competition, if you delay, your competitor may take the clients. So he's working for over 10 hours. I think that is from 8 to sometime in the evening. And he's bending to fix those tiny parts. Now, I think there are some parts where you reach and you can't fix them. So he's also using the mouse and think scroll through YouTube to see how these gadgets are repaired. And sometimes Yaka is also a problem and he wants to save it, so he hides in a certain corner that doesn't have even enough light to repair these gadgets such that he saves on electricity bills. Then they are also guiding us that he has started piling broken monitors and old batteries directly under his working desk to save space. Now that is the concept of e-waste management that I have chipped in. Is starting to, of course, pile these broken monitors. Like any other workshop, you'll find monitors there, batteries and so on. Yeah, under his desk, of course, working desk to save time. Now, the task that the item writer is tasking us here as item takers is that make a write-up informing your cousin about the specific health issues he's likely to face due to the habits and how to prevent them. Now, the second one says, the second part says how he can safely manage the old devices piling under his desk. Now that is e-waste management. But I want us to talk about the first part, which is the specific health issues. Like I said, if a situation, I have two situations here. The first situation is the first situation is when the first situation is when they give you the cause. And here, in that question that I have read, I have given you the cause. The cousin is spending a lot of time repairing device. That is the cause of his health issues. But also he's hiding because he wants to save electricity bills. So when he hides, he wants to save electricity bills and is working under dim light. That is another cause. Then they are telling us also that is, of course, filing those old desktops and batteries and so on under his work desk is also another cause of those health issues. So as an item taker, please give us the consequences of the cause, because they have given you the cause, but now we want to see what are the likely outcomes of him working for long hours, him working under dim light, and so on. In this case, you're going to act as a prophet. You look at someone's cause and you tell us what is most likely to happen. Become a prophet in this case. Predict for the person what they are likely to come across. So when you're guiding learners, let them know that. So in my responses here, because of time, I will simply sample one of these responses. They have given us the cause, so you explain the consequence that can come out of that cause. The first one that I sampled here is repetitive sprain injury. And this is because the cousin is using a mouse and fixing tiny parts for over 10 hours without rest. So when you look at this, the cause is there, and the consequence is the one I have bolded. That is the consequence of him being on the laptop for over 10 hours, but also using the mouse is getting that repetitive strain injury. Yes, you're addressing the scenario, but you're also telling us that you know what you're wanting, because you've understood the cause and you're telling us what is most likely to happen. And the mitigation measure is here. Advise him to take a 5-minute stretch break every hour and use the ergonomic mouse to reduce the strain on his wrist. Now, the mitigation is there. What is important here is that help the students know that they can explain this. It's very bulky, but help them know they can explain. The other one, maybe before I allow questions, there is what we call computer vision syndrome. And of course, this is like, I think the real outcome, if you don't pay attention to this, you can go blind. So if this client, they have told us that their cousin is working under dim lit corners, tell us what is going to happen because of that. So you get what we call computer vision syndrome. And of course, we'll soon experience blurred vision, dry eyes, and severe headache because of this. And how do we mitigate this? You should install proper overhead lighting, obviously, and adjusting screen brightness to match the room's light levels. So, please, every time a student presents the consequence, let them explain the cause of that consequence and let them show us the mitigation measure. And maybe at that point, I will now request for supplements, or I'll request for maybe questions, such that we close this session and see how students can get better results in this area. Back to the audience for those who have some questions or supplements. Yes, teacher Isaac.
Thank you so much, Teacher Elisa, for the presentation. I would like some clarity on the problem statement. Most subjects emphasize beginning with the problem statements. So you find even as in ICT, a learner writes a problem statement, then gives you the focused introduction. For example, in the first scenario, for instance, the learner says, The head teacher and the secretary wish to come up with an assembly which is successful and visually appealing, but they do not know the specific ICT tools to use. Then he brings in the focused introduction, defines the term ICT tools. So how do we judge this learner? Is it applicable to use or to begin with problem statements in our responses in as far as ICT is concerned?
Okay, of course, we will have several responses to that, but what I would guide here, Teacher Isaac, is that encourage these students not to repeat what the item writer has written. There's no need for you to continue again to go ahead and copy what is in the question, or there is no need for you to again preempt what you're going to write by starting to define certain components. So, regardless of how they write the introduction, provided it is showing us that it is relating to the answers that they are writing, and it is showing us that if the person takes the answers that they have written can sort of that what scenario at hand, that introduction is correct. Yes, of course, if they write a bulky one, it wastes their time, but it doesn't have any other extra mark for them. So what I would encourage Teacher Isaac is that please, when you go back, discourage them from copying what the task contains or twisting it to almost look directly like what the task has. But there is no bigger penalty for them, though it just irritates the item scorers because it appears as if you're making them read the question again. Otherwise, if they can go direct and tell us that what they're about to write solves that scenario, that is the best. And I had in your introduction, you have put the characters, which is okay. You've also put the areas of focus, which is okay. So there is no need of them making it to bulk. Yeah, so maybe I'll leave it at that, Teacher Isaac. There was this hand for Richard, Teacher Richard Nyanzi. Please put your submission. Teacher Richard Nyanzi, or we hear from Carlfred.
Yes, thank you, Mr. My question is, are you hearing me, sir?
Yes, I'm hearing.
Now, my question is here on currently the screen you're sharing with us. Now, can the student write the heresy problem, and at the same time, as a way of continuation, put the mitigation or the solution, or just breaks them as you've written them?
I think that is good. What is important here is that I was showing everything to allow us to see such that we can have our input, but there is no need for a student to break. So as when you're scoring them, what is important, if they give a correct explanation of this course, the code is a CQ, provided
Yes.
you've seen it. Then the other remaining code is MT. MT is mitigation. So whether it is in one paragraph, whether it has been split, whether it is written, how have you seen the consequence explained? Have you seen the mitigation? Doesn't matter where the student puts it.
Okay. Thank you,
But
sir.
maybe to caution your learners or to caution you as you go to meet them is that if a student congests the work, it is too irritating to an item scorer. It irritates. So if I must read and look for the mitigation within your paragraph, it irritates and it breaks the item scorer. So what I would suggest is discourage it. Let them use this approach such that it is clear. They may not say mitigation, but they can just write and say it can be mitigated by in a separate paragraph or a separate line such that it is easy to see it.
Okay, I understand.
Mm.
So now, sir, the next thing is that I'm so sorry I've joined late, but how can I get was this video recorded or?
Yeah, it's being recorded. Mr. Kazvaleta will share how you will access it. He's going to wrap up with that.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Mm.
Okay, the next hand is from Carl Fred. I'd already given you a chance. Please go on.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate all this. I also came in late. I'm sorry for that. I don't know if this was towards ICT mostly, but my question also was coming from the fact that you talked about focused introduction and focused conclusion. I would like to know if this is also applicable in other subjects, let's say biology, if learners would also be required to make those kind of introductions and conclusions. Then my other maybe would be like a comment or even a question as well. There's some items I've seen. They give a little bit of the causes. Let's say the causes could be maybe environmental degradation. They may not give all of them, but a few of them, or at least maybe yeah. And then later on, they ask the learner to also point out the causes and maybe mitigation, maybe the significance for that. So would I say maybe that is can I say maybe that is maybe it's improper for an item maybe to give, let's say it's giving bit of the causes and again asks the learners to give causes and then the
Okay.
rest of the item, the rest of the task. Thank you.
Okay, maybe Mr. Kazva, you will note that as well and chip in to when you come to submit. Can we use this introduction in other subjects? Which to me, I believe it could work, but the fact that you've interacted with more subjects, you'll guide that teacher there. I want to end with this last question when he said, when they bring in some causes. Yes, like I said in the beginning, that this section B is tricky in that a student can be tasked to explain a consequence if they give them the cause. And the first case I showed you is when the cause has been given and you explain what can come out of that. I want to show you the second case here where a cause like this one here, they are telling you that your aunt and Amina has typed documents for 15 years. Recently, her work increased and she now uses her computer for many hours. Yes. They are telling us that she has come to you crying because she now has a persistent headache and mild headache that won't go away. She also feels very stressed and has wrist pains for her long hours, from her long days at the desk. So I don't know whether this relates to what was said, but there are some items when you open them, you find that the item writer has even given you the consequences. Like now there is backache there is headache, there is stress and wrist pain that has already been given to you. So your role as an item taker, if you're taking on this item, you're supposed to now explain what causes this. And the explanation remains the same. Put the backache and tell us what causes it. For example, there is a backache here. Now, this is how you alter it and respond. If they have already provided it, you don't assume as if you're the one providing it. You start by saying, Aunt Amina has this pain because she sits in one position. You're explaining what causes that. And of course, give it what? A mitigation. Then they're telling us mild headache. This is caused by Aunt Amina's staring at a bright screen. You're explaining what causes that because they have told you it is what she has come with as a problem. So state it, tell us how it is caused, and for each case, you give us what? A mitigation. Maybe the last hand is from ICT Lab. ACT. ACT Lab, put your question, please, or supplement. ACT Lab, please, your hand is up.
Thank you so much. My question is about if a learner outlines the point and maybe it's not he explains it giving wrong setting, and how can you handle that? Thank you so much.
Okay, post that learner is also graded. And if he gives the points like now, this is the if he just says backache and does not explain the cause, that is not applicable. Just put NA. And of course, if he doesn't have even mitigation, or if the mitigation is not correct, you just put NA like this. Doesn't stress you. It means the student has misfired the question and doesn't score. There is no mark for in section B, maybe in section 1, section A, where student can list those correct ICT tools, gets 1 mark for each, and still the weight is 1, of course, not 2, not 3. And of course, but that is too much at another level. But here, just know that student does not score any mark, even if he goes ahead and explains well, telling us wrong things, no mark, you write NA. Don't have to stress, but encourage them not to misfire, of course. It irritates the person marking them. It makes them feel they don't know, even if they write the right thing at some point. The person assessing may start to feel what? Bias. Maybe because of time, I don't want to go past that. I want to welcome Mr. Kaziba to conclude this session. I want to thank you for your audience, and Mr. Kaziba, you can maybe start from there.
Okay, Teacher Lisa, before you go, there is a question you wanted me to answer. I didn't pick it well.
The question was, this focused introduction, I was bringing it in the sense of ICT. One of the teachers asked that, does this apply for other subjects as well? As me, I thought maybe if you write it like that in other subject, it would work. So I wanted you to come in and try to guide, because you've interacted with most of these subjects.
Oh, okay. Yes, but before we go, Teacher Lisa, you're going to look in the chat. I don't know whether you have been able to pick Mr. John.
No, I've not gone there. Let me go there.
Maybe let's first pick on a few questions. First pick on a few questions, and then I can.
Okay. All right. Mr. has given us chance to receive us some more questions. So whoever has a question, the chance is back to you. Put your hand up and we interact. Or you want to guide, please put your hand up and we interact a little bit. I'll start with Richard Nyans, then I'll get back to John K.
Okay, thank you once again. Now, Mr. My question is like, how many points can a student give on a certain item? Because some of them,
like I said, Teacher Richard, yes, you can submit.
Like some of them I get challenged, they write for me 5, others they write like 7, 10, but I would like to get the right number of points the student must raise on per particular item.
Okay, maybe what I can say here, because you could mislead them because the guide is never clear. What is important is give them the correct approach, let them write. Let them write as many points as they can. But if they write 5 and above, that is good enough. If they write 6, but I think red flag is from 5 and below. That is less. But there is no standard that. Of course, when you're looking at CBA, competence-based assessment, a student must write until the problem is no more. If they're talking about an assembly, then for you, you've forgotten to give a public address system, much as you've written 20 of them, you've not solved the problem. In the end, you assess and see as the child solved the problem, or he has solved it partially, or he has solved it full. Like maybe if I can sample for you here like this, a basic learner gets 0, 1, then There is this one who has tried, then there is this outstanding student. I don't know if you can now relate. If you can't solve completely, you're a basic student, you are around here. Then if you sort of did partially, you are in this category. And of course, if the problem is now no more, you've completely handled it, then you're in the top category. And these are the A's you see.
Oh,
Something like
so
that.
me,
So if you tell them write 6, then they can't solve the problem, they are still basic students.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay, let me get Teacher John K. Please go on.
Yes, I thank you. Once again, I've come back. I'm giving in my submission in in the second item that we are seeing. So much in this other area of a learner understanding the chapter very well. I will request the colleagues that when you are giving learners this area, you get your year planner, you get the syllabus, you display. If you have a projector, you emphasize on the learning outcomes. Now, the part that I always use is when I get, let's say that we are going to talk about a learning outcome, which is part A, in the safety, when we are talking of the safety precautions and then the mitigations, that is the health and whatever. I pose a question or a task to the learners. Let's say that we are in the computer lab and we are using these long stools in the computer lab. You task them. If you oversit onto that stool, what will happen? They will give you responses. If you task them that you have been at home, like now they are coming back, you say, how many of you have been watching TVs? How long? The timing, the period now. They will tell you, for us, we watch TV at a such and such a time. If you tell them the hours that they have been watching the TV all along the holiday, then you ask them the problem that they have encountered, they will tell you again the challenge. This means by the time you bring them onto this chapter, to ask them the challenges that may occur, like the eye effect, the back pain, the itch, whatever, really the learner will give you at the back of the mind that is well familiar with the concept as well. You may bring in the tutorials that are on the YouTube, where we talk of the prolonged use of the computers, the challenges. I tell you, facilitators, by the time you come in to give in your responses, you will feel that really you have a simple number, a small group that you need to give in help. These others will be already covered in the visual. Visual teaching is so much interesting and it will not make your work. You not be the man of the day. You not be the savior of the day. Once you make the learners to get involved, once you make them to make research, once you make them to feel that they own the teaching, I tell you, friends, you will find that when people are coming in to answer this item, section B, people will have the answers already with them because they are exposed. They have seen the visual. They have seen the other part of your input as well. They will not cram basing on what you have given them, because the moment you have some learners who say, no, teacher said you write this. That writing of a specific part, other than a student applying what he knows on that chapter, on that area, on that challenge that has been given in the scenario, you will find that we may score the A's than the ones and the whatever as well. If you a learner, there's a teacher who said, what if a learner just identifies and then he explains, the explanations are wrong? This is why you'll find that very many of your learners will get the ones because they ended at a certain level of only identifying, and they don't have the other sections of the brain. Remember, we are testing the brain, the body, and the mind. Once they don't hold this as a whole in them, you will find that your ICT, you'll have every time it will be you on the brain other than seeing the learners participating and loving the subject. That's what I can give. As well, colleagues, it's too good to meet you online. I thank you, Mr. Kaziva. Thank you for this work. Really, it has been a long way. I remember where we started up to now. Thank you so much, colleague. I'm Mr. Coco Uganda. It's a game. I will call all colleagues come into this game. If you need details, if Mr. Kaziva gives me a chance, I will just display a small video for you just in 2 minutes. I thank you. Happy day, happy 2026. Go ICT.
Right. Thank you so much, Teacher John K. It has been good hearing from you as well. And yeah, can we probably get the last hand? Teacher Ratib is up already. Yes, you can proceed, Teacher Ratib.
Okay, thank you so much, Teacher Erisa. Maybe to make it a bit clear again, in the chat section, I've kindly requested for your contact if you have no challenge with that. But in line with item 2 and item 3, I want maybe also to continue to encourage on the colleagues that as we do teach our learners onto the e-waste, let's expose them to the e-waste recycling companies that we do have in Uganda. Let them know their roles because it will make their writing easy the other side. For example, when I'm teaching my learners, I expose them even to where they are located. And then we are also planning to also carry out some tours to also go and have a visit. For example, when you check onto how they are supposed to maybe defend their points, I just want to use an example shortly in here. I had a scenario that was talking about a computer laboratory where thieves broke in, stole this, stole that, was a mock item. And if a learner is defending on an item and then they write like this, they say maybe recycling of broken computer parts. And they say that the laboratory attendant should collect and separate broken parts such as CPUs, cables, and power supplies and take them to certified recycling companies such as Green Electronics Uganda. Now at least they know that in Uganda we have an e-recycling agency called Green Electronics Uganda to recover useful material like copper and aluminium. As a learner talks about maybe controlled or acid bath recycling of metal components and stuff, they go on to mention some of the agencies in Uganda that are there to support in such a process. It will make their point very advanced. The point will reach home and will be very clear for them to defend. So as we do teach them about e-waste, let's also expose them to these e-recycling agencies in Uganda, let them know their roles, and let them know more about them. I remain Teacher Ratib. I do have a YouTube channel for those that want to follow more on my content. When you go on YouTube, the name is Mutebi Ratib. You can find more on my ideas. Feel free to comment. Feel free to guide where you see that we are not performing well as we keep growing one another, as we each one teach one. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Teacher Ratib. It was so wonderful to interact with you as well. And thank you so much for your submission. And I know everyone must have picked one or two from all your submissions. Yeah, I'm happy that I've been your facilitator this morning. And I pray that whatever we talked about here is put into considerations and we guide our students. When you're marking a student who has written so well, you're happy even if it is not your student. But if you're marking a student who is struggling, remember we are entering into a world where ICT is going to play a very big role, or it's already playing a very big role. Imagine you're teaching students and the student turns out to have failed ICT. You've limited that child's opportunities. Imagine they've gone to a hotel, or maybe a supermarket, and they've requested for these documents, and the first subject they'll look at is ICT and has failed. And yet this child knows a lot of computer. He can type, he can do everything. but you've not guided them on how to handle these items, they will not pass. When they don't pass, they would have almost lost it out for almost the rest of their life, which is not good. So when we go back, let's guide them. Let's really guide them. Let's guide them. Let them pass. This is doable. ICT paper 1 is passable. Please look for these materials. Continue asking some of us who have interacted with these scripts, and continue asking from any of your friends who can probably explain it better. But like someone said it here, I was very happy when someone said, continue making good use of those groups in class. There are schools you go to and they have already put aside these groups and students are sitting like in the old curriculum way. I really don't know how you teach these children otherwise. These concepts, if you put them direct to the blackboard, you'll bore these students and you'll finish the whole syllabus in one term. But if you allow them discuss, they are going to be super students. I want to thank you for all your time, and I want to welcome Mr. Kaziva to, of course, close this, but also tell one of our colleagues who asked if this is going to be shared, the recording is going to be shared, and how they can access it. Thank you very much. Back to you, Mr. Kaziva.
Thank you so much, Teacher Lisa, for leading us through this session. We have really learned a lot from this session, and my prayer is that the teachers can implement, share whatever you have learned from here with your colleagues, and also let's learn to collaborate. Yeah, and many times when I follow up on some of the groups, I have taken note that some of us here have faith, or like we do believe in one, let me say, one man knows it all. So whatever he says, whatever she says, we go with that. But always come up to give your own ideas. In this competence-based curriculum, we learn from each other. Don't take someone's point as like the gospel truth every time. Check it out as well. Make your contribution, because if the learner is to give a good response, or if you are to get a good thing from a learner, they need to keep on sharing. Number 2, like you have said, this recording will be available on the Holistic Learning YouTube channel, so you can check it there. Give us just about 1 hour from now, it will be there. Then the teacher who asked about the different subjects, I would respond like this, that it will depend on the subject. Each of the subjects has its own elements of constructs, and the scoring depends on those elements of construct. A case in point, let me say, in case we are in geography, geography has 2 sections. Has section A, section B. Like let me say section A, you'll find map skills, photography. In section B, you find physical geography, social and economic geography. So the way you score them is a bit different. However, the same thing is different in Sarah E, the same thing is different in chemistry, the same thing is different in math and other subjects, bit physics. But one of the things that is coming out is that, one, the learner must have, like in some of those subjects, let me say in case you're in geography, you are in Sarah E, the learner and other art subjects, those language, the arts, the learner must have the knowledge, what we call the conceptual knowledge. So the point the learner states, that one should come out clearly. Number 2 was what we call conceptual understanding. The learner must understand the scenario and respond in line with the scenario, such that the point he or she has stated or she has been able to identify, it is clear. Then also look at the application. So those are the main things that come out in all other subjects: conceptual knowledge, understanding, and then the application. Yes, those are the main things. But the introduction, it depends on the subject. It depends on the kind of subject you are handling. In math, we don't need that introduction. Though for it, we consider mainly the conclusion is very key. Like you are responding back to the item. Then teacher Elisa also talked about here when you are answering that part of the of e-waste. And those who have dived into research, and I would encourage each one of you here, if you get time, go deep into research. Now, what the concept that is coming up in the new curriculum is what we call a causal effect. So the current research or the research that university students are doing at master's level, PhD level, and other levels of education, we call it the causal effect research. You have the cause and then you ask, what is the effect? And now from the effect, what is the mitigation? Now, if you are very good at research or you are making your research paper, even those who are going to be writing articles, papers for publication, your research, that's what they are going to look out for. That state the cause, your topic must be in a causal effect form. Now, what UNEB is doing for ICT, they give you either cause or the effect. And then for you need to find out, is this the cause or it is the effect? And what mitigations can we go on to have? So you can make more research and even get interested in publishing even papers in case time allows. You'll find it very interesting and to become even very easy for you to guide the children. Then I'm also going to ask you that the beauty, we have these gadgets, we have the smartphones, we have the laptops. Some of these things, we may not be able to get them on let me say, online. But we can get good photos that we can use in our classrooms. Take an example, those who pass by Kampala Road. When you go inside those buildings, you can notice that there is a lot of e-waste of those gadgets. You can ask for permission, take some of those photos, and then take them. And those photos can be used at a later time. For me, I have a practice that whenever I am traveling, I'm going somewhere, I take photos, whether I need it or not. It is just a matter of time for me to find out it's used, that probably I can use this photo somewhere. So you can develop that practice, but always ask permission before you take the photo, unless the position where you are not in, like it is free, they don't refuse. But in case it is going to involve people, then you may first ask for permission, such that we can have many of those photos captured, put them somewhere, such that even when you master how to develop these virtual realities, those experiences, you have a lot of photos, a lot of videos, even bit videos that you can keep on sharing with your friends. Then I'm also going to request that the term is starting very soon, and I know that if we collaborate, we can come up with good activities. If you feel there is an activity you have that you have come up with and you think it is really very good, even if it is not so good, but as long as you feel according to your potential, according to what you have, can be shared, please share, such that we can improve those activities. We keep on sharing ideas that probably, like now the way Teacher John was sharing how he could start a lesson, his first lesson in senior one, another person could come up with another idea. How can I start my lesson? Such that we can share those ideas and we keep on building each other. Sometimes one of the things that sometimes I keep asking myself, why is it that ICT is never the best subject among all the subjects? Because the number of students we have taking on ICT is not so big and it is a bit manageable. But I do understand that sometimes we do not have resources at our schools. But what can we do about those resources? I know you have cried, you have asked for permission, you have done all what you can within your means to be able to get the resources. Some of you, I know, you have one laptop. Some of you have 2 computers in the computer lab. You may have 5, but only 2 are working. All those are problems. If we keep on talking about problems without finding the solution, we are not going to improve our subject. Therefore, I would request that, number one, if you could have a meeting. I know some of our directors, teachers, and the people that are in charge, they do not sometimes take us very serious. Like they do their things at their own pace. If you could make some suggestions, you make your proposal that, head teacher, I would propose that students may be on fees, depending. I'm just giving you different models. It will depend on which one can work for you. Maybe you say, if every term, I'm just imagining, you have a school whereby every term a student contributes 2,000, just 2,000, and you have a school of maybe 500 children, and you tell them, we are contributing 2,000. A term, that is 1 million. In that 1 million, you can buy 1 gadget. Even if it is 1 gadget every term, bit you say, now this term I'm going to concentrate at getting a laptop for the school. This time I'm going to concentrate on getting maybe a projector. This time you want to get a printer, such that we start small. By the time we shall finish the year, if you start term 1, you have 1 gadget, term 2, those are 2, and then term 3, those are 3 gadgets. That one is a good improvement. It's better than having nothing. Other than us waiting for the term for the exams when UNEB is going to be running, and then we start running. We don't have a computer, we don't have a computer. But if we start small and say, can we make some little contribution? Maybe 1,000. Even if it is 1,000, even you can talk to your students and tell them, you know what? If we want to have this gadget, because not all students may manage to buy their own gadgets, but if you can say, can we make a contribution of maybe 5,000 each of us, and maybe there are 30 students in a class, you keep on building until the end. But in case that approach may not work for you, and you know these parents, sometimes if you have an opportunity and these parents can collaborate, you can go through them. Some of those parents are willing to support. They are willing to support. I've seen parents supporting. The only problem is that they do not. Sometimes as schools, we ask for things without explaining actually what something is going to do. But if you can engage them, that even during those parent meetings, you ask for a slot, you say, I want to talk about ICT. Sell the idea to the parent, because the future where we are heading, it is going to be mainly ICT. I think yesterday I saw an advert whereby they wanted just 4 doctors at Kampala, in one of the hospitals in Kampala, but over 400 had applied, but they wanted just 4 slots. So it shows you that now the field of ICT has quite a lot of opportunities. But how are our children going to utilize them? Through this foundation that you are laying for them. Then also I will encourage you that for whatever work you do in your schools, have it put somewhere. Even if you have had a small exhibition, even if you have had some group work, even if you have this, for the people to support you, for organizations to come and offer you support, they need to have evidence of the work you have been doing. What is it that you are doing? Going to class and teach is okay, but it's not enough. You will not get the support to improve your school. Yes. So if you want to get that support, create a YouTube channel for the school. Create, even if it is an individual channel, create your own individual channel. Let your work be visible, such that people know that, in this particular school, there is some work that is being done. Through those small advocates you do make, they will reach far. They will reach very, very far. So for whatever thing you are doing, for you put it on record. Ask for permission. In case it involves children, you can ask those children, the parents, for permission to use their children in their photos or in the video. Keep taking note of those things. Post them, even if it is on the WhatsApp group. You can show us how you are carrying out your lesson, what you have. Yes, through that process, I know you can. Even I know very soon, UCC will serve out some computers and maybe some laptops, some projectors, TV screens, and the rest of that. But sometimes it is hard for your school to be given if there is nothing that you are doing or working on as a school or as a person. So if you can take on that initiative, then things will be very fine. But also I would request that, can we support our teachers on ground? I do understand some of them don't want anything concerning technology. But if you identify those that are willing to learn, give them the support. It can be as easy as typing. It can be as easy as doing some little work. It will help. Most so now, like I know some of your doses are really struggling. Like the deadline for submission of continuous assessment was on 31st last week, but many of them had not submitted because they are fidgeting around, and I know they don't want to involve you in some of this work. You support them, how to use Excel, how to use those simple tools. You have supported them very much. Allow me to end here. Then I know Teacher Coco, you have some interesting thing you mentioned. Kindly go on and share with the members such that they can learn the good practice. As Teacher Elvis also, you come in. Thank you. Teacher Coco, you're in position to unmute.
Yes, I hope now you are seeing my screen. Just
Yes.
something small. For more briefs, I'm going to be sharing with you on my number. I've requested Mr. Kaziba to allow me to post my number there. The game is called the Coco, and it is a new initiative onto the forums of UG. It is a game where I think those who remember what we called the Kauna long ago, those who are born from 80s, 70s, late 90s, and somewhere 2000, the Kauna game. So this game, it doesn't call for a lot of money. You only need your body. I think if I put this video, I don't know whether it will be. Are you able to see it?
Not yet.
But is it displaying?
Well, it is displaying the poster.
Okay, only the poster.
Yes.
Maybe what I can request, if it's okay, for all those who may be interested in knowing the game is called the Coco. Let me put the poster down and then I display the video again. Is it displaying now?
Not yet.
Is it okay? Will this be able to play a video basing from everybody where he is? Will the software allow?
Okay, now it has started playing.
Okay, let me display. So we are talking of the game. Is it playing?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So that is the game called Coco, and we really feel happy if we interact in that area. It is a game which calls for only the body. Your capital is the body, and then we use the mind, the head, and then the other scoring part is when you just placing your hand to the other person. So we have the manual. The game is free of charge. It is moving around the country, and it is going to participate in the USSA tournament this year, and we shall have competition come December in ball game 2 in Gulu. I would request those who are online, those who are already on this platform, this is how we can link to each other. You may be our partner, that side of your school where you are. Trainings are able, free of charge, so long as you arrange with your head teacher, the director, and then the learners. More so, senior 1, senior 2. We have medals. What is good in this game is that it is visible. You can get to see the outcome as early as it is. I thank you so much, Mr. Kaziba.
Thank you so much, Mr. Coco, for the innovation. And thank you so much, everyone, for attending this session. Thank you once again, Mr. Elisa, and for all those that have been able to attend this session. We shall continue tomorrow with other sessions, but I want to to apologize to the people of chemistry that your session was postponed, and we shall have it anytime this week. We shall let you know when we can have it. But thank you so much for joining. Have a beautiful afternoon. Bye bye.